You may have seen some of those around this conference. Transaction figures. Just some clarification. FTM means female to male. MTF means male to female. F to X is what I am, and it's kind of somewhere in the middle. MX is the gender-neutral term for Mr. or Miss, and it is pronounced mix. So you may call me Mix Mac. I made the transaction figure series out of a need to see people like me represented in a positive way. There is no trans Barbie or trans Ken, and I didn't like that the only trans narrative seen in the public view was the one where we transitioned from one box to a different one. I sought and received permission from several transgender people who were actively seeking equality to use as transaction heroes. The first one I made was me, because sometimes you need to be your own hero. Ian Harvey is the second transaction figure made. He is a transgender comedian and has had guest appearances on the Amazon show Transparent. I've also made one of Ivan Coyote, and have plans to make 10 in all, including Laverne Cox, Kate Bornstein, Leslie Feinberg, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, Julie Serrano, and the Lady Chablis. I made these with the youth of today in mind, and I am grateful for the opportunities I have had in speaking with trans teens in Georgia and the LGBT youth in several southern states. I cannot imagine having the courage to go through this in high school. High school, it's hard enough. These teenagers are my heroes, and I continue to try to be like them in their persistence and resolve. It is for them that I make myself vulnerable and visible in hopes that one day they might have an easier journey. It is upon the backs of those who have gone before me that I am able to make the work in this next series called Gender Politics. I had to learn about my history, queer history, before the days of Google. I listened to stories from the stone butches and the drag queens in my neighborhood, any story that they were willing to share. I heard them talk about solidarity and community, of Stonewall, the Pride Parades, Harvey Milk, and Matthew Shepard. Still hungry for my history, I read the words of Leslie Feinberg and Kate Bornstein, searching for where I might fit in. Cross-dressing drag queens and gender variants are not new in popular culture. Hollywood has a rich history of putting cis, heterosexual, male actors in women's clothing for comedic effect. I remember watching the Looney Tunes as a kid, and Bugs Bunny cross-dresses a lot. He has shown up as a Valkyrie, a geisha, a Southern Belle, a blushing bride, a flapper, a mermaid, and many others. He's been called the first drag queen. Bugs Bunny has been linked to the vaudeville tradition of female impersonation and even attempts to flirt with male characters. He's frequently shown being interrupted while dressed as a female in his rabbit hole, demonstrating that he does this for more than laughs. This particular piece is based on my favorite Bugs Bunny cartoon, What's Opera Doc? John Waters' 1972 film Pink Flamingo stars Divine as Babs Johnson, who lives in a trailer in the woods with her mother and son. It is a satire of the obsession with fame and the incredible lengths to which one can go to achieve it. Babs is seeking to retain her title as the filthiest woman alive. Harris Glenn Milstead, better known by his stage name and persona Divine, launched into mainstream cinema with the John Waters film Hairspray, which you probably all heard of. He was described by People magazine as the drag queen of the century and is still a cult figure in the LGBT community today. It's Pat is an androgynous fictional character from Saturday Night Live played by Julia Sweeney. The central focus of all the skits is the inability of others to determine Pat's gender. Is it short for Patrick or Patricia? When asked what Pat is short for, the character replies, Pat is short for Pat. Pat remains oblivious and endlessly frustrates any who subtly question the character's gender. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is a 1975 cult classic and a parody tribute to science fiction and horror B-movies. Frankenfurter is a mad scientist who is an alien transvestite who creates a living muscle man in his laboratory. Rocky Horror dares to unlock and expose the racy underbelly of a repressed America. We are the secret aliens, the offbeat folks who don't fit in or conform. Tim Curry embodied both king and queen, using both genders as seduction in a style comparable to gender-bending allies like David Bowie and Mick Jagger. This last piece I'm going to show you, it's called What's in a Name, and it's about the complicated relationship that trans people have with our former names. It's about dead naming, a term used in the trans community for calling a trans person by their assigned name at birth. Our former names come back to haunt us and are often used as weapons against us. It's about the anxiety caused every time we are asked to show our IDs. This piece reflects the mountain of paperwork it takes to legally change a name. On Valentine's Day this year, I legally became McCusker. You guys are awesome. Still, now I must change 42 years of history. Not only my driver's license and birth certificate, but bank accounts, credit cards, my college degrees, emails, magazine subscriptions, PayPal, Square, Amazon, eBay, anywhere I've shopped. It's a really long list. I personally chose not to change my gender marker. Instead, I challenged the expectations of what being female encompasses. This is a picture of me after 1 full year of hormone therapy and 15 months after surgery. Sometimes this journey makes me feel incredibly alone. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation reported that only 16% of Americans know someone who is transgender, leaving 84% to learn about transgender people through the media alone. If you are one of those 16%, hello, it's nice to meet you. March 31st is National Transgender Day of Visibility, and on that day, I hope you will think about me and think about the number of trans people being murdered, especially trans women of color, dying because of their gender expression. I woke up this morning to yet another one, 9 this year. I'm standing before you today, visible for those who cannot be, and I am grateful to you all for your support, and to all of those who have reached out to me on social media. Your comments, you make my day when you talk to me. It means so much for me to be able to stand up here and tell my story. Thank you.
Is there a dry eye in the room?
Okay. Now I want to introduce Taylor Robinault, who was my friend and ally in this fight. She's going to come up and tell her story.